The story kicks off, man, with a crazy, terrifying scene. The ground violently shakes inside a creepy, dark old mine. Workers down there start screaming that a massive earthquake is hitting. They're running everywhere, warning each other the mine's gonna cave right in on their heads. Pure panic everywhere, and rocks are dropping from the ceiling. Amidst this mess, we spot a terrified girl running past the guys. As she gets close to one, a massive fire erupts. The whole mine turns into a pile of dirt and rubble, swallowing everything in its path. Then, we cut to the town square, and it gets even uglier. We see the crowd surrounding that same girl. Guards got her tied up, screaming in her face, claiming she uses black magic. They announce to everyone that she's a cursed witch. The mob in the square starts cheering out of pure rage. You can see the hate in their eyes, demanding her death, chanting together that this witch needs to die right now. Somewhere else, away from the yelling, up in the VIP balcony, we see Boris. He's this greedy, chubby guy, drinking and chatting with Commander Carter. He tells him Prince Roland is way too busy and won't even show up for this execution. Boris sarcastically adds that the prince probably won't even get out of bed. He mentions the prince thinks this border town is totally infested with witches, and he's thinking about heading back to the Grey Castle instead of hanging around this depressing dump. Next up, we see Barav, the prince's assistant, walking down the hall. He bumps into the maid Tyre, asking where the prince is. She whispers back, telling him he's still knocked out. Barav isn't having it. He barges into the room, calling out for Prince Roland. He's low-key freaking out, trying to wake him up, telling him it's super late and everyone's waiting for his verdict at the square. Our hero opens his eyes, looking completely shocked and confused. We see him looking around, totally lost, asking himself, "Where the hell am I? How did I even get here?" The prince hears the words verdict and execution and is totally clueless. He thinks he's dreaming, but touches his hands and realizes it feels way too real. This isn't just a nightmare. Roland looks at Barav and foreign memories suddenly pop into his head. He recognizes him, calling him Barav. Barav is weirded out by the prince's vibe, but promises he's his loyal servant. He reminds him again that it's execution time and they gotta face the crowd. The prince decides to just play along until he figures things out. We see him walking heavily next to Barav, still tripping out over being in this guy's body, asking himself, "What exactly happened to me?" The second the prince hits the balcony, the crowd goes wild, cheering like he's their savior. Roland looks down, and his eyes lock onto the girl with a noose around her neck. That's Anna, the girl they framed for magic. Barav steps up, demanding the order right now. Roland asks him, mind blown, "Wait, this helpless girl is the witch you were talking about?" Barav confirms it's her. Right then, Roland thinks to himself that this whole witch-hunting garbage makes zero sense. Roland tries to dodge the situation, saying he's sick and wants to push this back to another day. He tells Barav to just clear the crowd, but Commander Carter jumps in quick, saying this ain't a joke. He warns him if they don't execute her right now, she'll attract more witches and cause total disaster. Roland looks at Carter, and data flashes in his mind, letting him know this guy is Carter Lannis, his knight captain. Roland smirks, telling him he shouldn't be so scared. He adds that if more witches show up, that's actually better so they can bust them all at once. Carter and Barav look at each other, totally shocked by the prince doing a complete 180. Meanwhile, the crowd starts grumbling, wondering why the prince won't kill this cursed witch. We cut back inside the house, where Roland is sitting, wrapping his head around his new situation. We see him analyzing everything around him. He realizes he's now in the body of a totally irresponsible prince, stuck in some worthless, unknown land right in the middle of a super primitive and ignorant society. Roland knows this era is basically the Dark Ages, filled with brutal power struggles between siblings. He starts asking himself, what the hell he can even do in all this chaos and stupidity, and what his true place is in this brand new world. Right then, our boy decides to face reality and accept his fate. He proudly and boldly declares to himself that starting today, he's no longer his old self. He is now Roland Wimbledon, the prince who's going to completely change the game. We see Roland looking in the mirror, telling himself that since he's here, he's got to use every single ounce of science and knowledge he has to build a completely new and different world. Suddenly, his assistant Barov walks in, saluting him and saying he showed up because the prince called for him. Roland looks at him super calmly and tells him to take a seat so they can talk about something important. Barov starts talking, and you can see the panic and confusion all over his face. He asks the prince why he stopped the witch's execution yesterday, warning him that this whole thing is super dangerous, urgent, and can't be delayed. Roland just looks at him coldly and asks, why? Here, Barov pulls out a weird coin or amulet and drops it in front of the prince. He explains their guards spotted witches in the western forest and found this exact amulet there. We see Roland grabbing it, looking heavily focused. Barov keeps going, saying this amulet is the Demon's Eye of the Holy Mountain, the official logo for the Witch Cooperation Association. Roland asks what the hell this association is, and Barov explains it's a group gathering witches together, aiming to unite them all to find the legendary Holy Mountain. Barov also tells the prince that legends say witches will find eternal peace there. That's why this group is constantly trying to turn innocent girls into witches. He even thinks they're the reason behind the missing babies at the port of Clearwater. Roland starts connecting the dots and asks Barov if he's scared this group will show up to bust out the captured witch. Barov confirms it, saying these witches are totally psycho and will do literally anything so they don't leave one of their own behind. Barov begs the prince to drop the execution order ASAP to dodge the drama, explaining these witches got terrifying powers, and the kingdom's knights might not even stand a chance against them. Roland zones out for a sec, then asks, how did you even catch her if she's that strong? Barov tells the story, explaining that a few days ago when the mine collapsed, this girl showed her true colors and used her magic. He says she unleashed hellfire that burned a poor guy so bad, his body and head literally melted to the ground like wax. Here, Roland makes a shock decision and tells him he wants to see her himself. Barov is stunned by the request, asking him in disbelief how he can meet her, but Roland firmly stands by his choice. Prince Roland asks why they execute witches by hanging, noting it's usually by burning. Barov explains that this specific girl isn't afraid of fire and it doesn't even affect her. As they reach the prison and get close, Commander Carter tries to stop the prince from acting reckless. He warns him she's an evil witch and the god's locket of retribution she's wearing might not be enough to keep him safe. Roland looks at him like an absolute boss, telling him that a guy who wants to defeat evil has to face it head on. He tells his commander that justice shouldn't just target the weak and ignore the real threats. Carter shuts up, feeling helpless, and agrees to follow his orders. We then cut to the dark, freezing prison hallways. We see Prince Roland walking among the guards, with Carter and Barov right beside him until they reach the cell of the girl, Anna. Anna is tied up with heavy iron chains by her hands, looking completely exhausted. Roland tells Carter to chill out and step back. He approaches the girl, introduces himself, and tells her he's the fourth prince of the Grey Castle Kingdom. The prince asks for her name, and she replies with telling him she's Anna. Roland acts interested and asks her to tell him her story and what exactly went down at the mine that day. We see the sadness on Anna's face as she explains her dad was a miner. When the mine collapsed, she ran to save him and found him trapped under the rubble. Anna keeps talking, saying another worker used the chaos to try and steal her dad's money. That cash was their entire life savings that they needed just to survive. Anna tells the prince that when she saw the thief threatening to kill her dad with an axe, she just lost it and killed him using her magic powers. Roland asks her why she got arrested. Anna says someone snitched on her. Right then, Barov jumps in and tells the prince that the guy who betrayed her and ratted her out was her own dad. Roland is totally shocked by how messed up this is, but Barov explains it was pure greed, because whoever turns in a witch gets a 25 gold coin bounty. Since the dad was crippled, that cash would guarantee him an easy life. Roland looks back at Anna, asking how a little girl like her managed to kill a grown man. Anna bitterly tells him she used what they call black magic. Prince Roland asks her to show him this magic. Carter and Barav freak out, warning him that the locket on her neck is sealing her powers, and freeing her would be a total disaster. Anna looks at the prince, defiantly telling him his curiosity might get him killed. Roland fires back confidently, letting her know that if she really was a demon, her dad would be the dead one right now, not him. Roland gets even closer to Anna. We see him grabbing the chain around her neck, telling everyone he wants to know the truth. Is she an innocent victim or a demon acting her heart out? At this moment, we see Roland yanking off the magic locket, and Anna starts blasting heavy flames from her body. Fire fills the cell, and Barav and Carter try to drag the prince away, absolutely terrified. Carter screams at the prince that they gotta run, but Roland stands his ground, telling him there's nothing to worry about. We see him pointing at the fire, which isn't burning him or affecting him at all. Roland explains to them that Anna is completely controlling the flames, and she doesn't intend to hurt anyone. We see Anna standing right in the middle of the fire, looking terrifyingly calm. Anna looks at the prince, hopelessly telling him his curiosity must be satisfied now, and begs him to end her suffering and kill her right there. Prince Roland walks toward her, confidently telling her he's not gonna kill her, and that he actually wants her to work for him. Next up, we see our boy Roland deep in thoughts coming from a totally different world. He's thinking about the laws of physics, specifically the second law of thermodynamics. He realizes that witches in this world completely break all these rules. They can literally create energy out of thin air with zero limits. This makes him realize that witch power is the absolute fastest way to flip this primitive world upside down. Right in the middle of his thoughts, he hears a knock on the door. His assistant Barav walks in, salutes him, and says, "Good morning, Your Highness." Roland looks at Barav, asking if he took care of the task he gave him. Barav confirms everything is solid, saying the witch's execution went down exactly at noon. He adds they completely covered her face, so nobody in the crowd even noticed she wasn't the real witch. Roland is super impressed with the results, telling him, "Perfect." Then he immediately asks Barav to prep some highly detailed reports. The prince tells him he needs a summary of all trade deals, taxes, and fixed town expenses over the last 10 years. Barav stands there mind blown, asking the prince what he even needs all this data for. Roland gives him a cold stare, telling him he doesn't want any questions right now, he just needs the job done fast. Suddenly, Barav's face lights up with joy, telling the prince he's finally taking his father's decree for the throne seriously. Roland starts thinking about his siblings and the mission their dad gave them. We find out his brother Gerald got Coldwind Ridge as a heavy military base. His brother Timothy is running Valencia, which is basically the kingdom's economic hub. His sister Garcia controls the major trade port of Clearwater, while his other sister Tilly runs Silver City, the ultimate cultural center. And in return, our boy got dumped in this abandoned, rundown border town. Roland straight up asked Barav about his actual chances of winning this war. Barav is brutally honest, explaining that his siblings' territories have massive advantages. Compared to them, it's insanely hard to pull off any real success in this border town. He also drops the harsh truth that the prince's past behavior and trash reputation among the nobles give him zero edge in this race. But Roland is thinking 2 steps ahead, brewing a big brain plan to secure that throne. Next, we cut to a castle hallway, seeing Commander Carter waiting for Barav. He asks him what exactly the prince said. Barav walks by completely zoned out, so Carter catches up, warning him this whole witch situation is totally messed up. We then cut to the garden, where we see Anna chilling quietly. Barav walks up to her holding a paper, telling her this is just an employment contract or agreement. He explains that once she signs the last page, she and the prince will have a totally equal working relationship. Anna is super confused by the word equality. Barav keeps talking, letting her know the prince specifically specifically insisted on this part. Then Roland shows up, calling out to Anna and walking into the garden with total class. Roland walks up to her, asking if she slept well last night. She shyly replies that she was fine. The prince tells her he really wished she could rest longer after everything she went through, but time is super tight, promising to make it up to her later. Anna looks at him totally confused as they stroll through the massive garden. She starts asking the prince why he even saved her, considering she killed a guy and should be punished. Roland explains that what she did in the mine was pure self-defense, and literally anyone in her shoes would do the exact same thing to protect their family. Anna replies hopelessly, saying that even if he forgives her, she's still a witch. Roland walks over to a bush, picks a beautiful flower, and hands it to her. We see Anna admiring how pretty it is, but suddenly, Roland tells her with a dead serious voice that this flower is highly poisonous. Anna freaks out and instantly drops it. Right then, Roland starts cracking up, telling her he was just messing with her and explaining that literally everyone knows this flower isn't toxic at all. He starts getting his point across, telling her the flower's core never changed. The only thing that changed was her view of it based on what he said. He explains the exact same logic applies to witches. From his perspective, her power is just like this flower, a product of nature, not inherently good or evil. But she tells him her power is genuinely terrifying and could kill anyone who gets close. She admits the church is right and that witches are literally the embodiment of evil, eventually begging him to just kill her and get it over with. But Roland just looks at her, saying if she really wants to die, that's her right. But he makes it clear that dying isn't a solution, it's just running away. Roland then pitches her a second option, asking her to help him build a brand new world where witches can live freely without any fear. A world where they won't have to hide or feel ashamed of who they are. A world where they can use their powers to help people and heal the pain of this world. Anna starts tearing up, telling the prince she just wanted to go back to school, read with her classmates, and sing in the fields. She reveals her ultimate dream is to become a teacher just like Mr. Carl, hanging out with kids and teaching them how to read and write. She asks the prince with a super hopeful voice if this dream could actually come true. Roland looks deep into her eyes with pure confidence and says, "Absolutely." He tells her it's going to happen as long as they work together. Next up, we see Prince Roland teaching the witch Anna how to control her powers. He explains she's got to train in this exact spot to stay completely off the radar. He lets her know her main goal right now is having absolute control over every single detail of her magic, whether it's the exact temperature or the sheer power of her flames. He also warns her to be super careful while training so she doesn't accidentally burn her clothes off again or set anything nearby on fire. Right after that, we see Roland chilling in his office, looking completely drained and exhausted because he pulled an all-nighter studying those reports. His assistant Barov walks in, looking at the prince with serious concern, telling him he must be dead tired from staying up all night. Roland starts breaking down what he discovered with Barov. He tells him he read last year's report and realized the only industry worth anything in this border town is mining. We see him flipping through the papers, explaining they're digging up massive amounts of rocks, ores, and gemstones. But the massive plot twist Roland drops on Barov is that the financial report shows the town's annual income is literally zero. Roland explains the profits barely cover operating costs. Even crazier, there's zero data on the citizens' lives or their taxes, and most importantly, this border town has absolutely zero farming. Roland starts apologizing to Barov for slacking off in the past, admitting he was drowning in a life of luxury and partying while leaving him with all the heavy lifting. But he promises him that starting today, he's done running away. He's going to be the true leader. He asks Barov to stick by his side and help him out. Barov gets super hyped, pledging his loyalty and promising to do whatever it takes. He then hits the prince with the harsh reality of the massive food crisis caused by Boris. Roland just smirks sarcastically, saying he actually thought Boris was a decent guy. He figures he's definitely salty because Roland took the town from him. But thinking logically, Roland says since the border town belonged to Boris, it only made sense he'd try to sell the ores at a fair price. Barov then drops the bitter truth on the prince. He explains that Boris and all the nobles who ruled this town before actually own estates over in Longsong Stronghold. All their real interests are over there. Because of that, they never had any intention of upgrading this border town. They just treated themselves like overseers, coming here to mine the ores and ship them off to their bosses in Longsong for a cut of the profit. Roland immediately makes a boss move, telling Barav this entire joke ends right now. He orders him to shut down all trade operations with Longsong Stronghold instantly. He also lets him know they're gonna start real trade, explaining that all the ready-to-ship ores will be sold straight to Saul City for hard cash, so they can finally buy the grain and food they need. Barav is super worried that Saul City might refuse to buy these massive amounts, but Roland hits him with a genius plot twist. He tells him he's gonna sell it to them at half the market price. He explains that this insane profit margin will make them agree instantly, quickly giving the town huge cash flow and letting them dominate the market. Roland analyzes the whole situation in his head, eventually finding a solution for the monster problem in the winter, too. He realizes that to truly settle down, build his kingdom, and compete for the throne, he's gotta solve this monster issue from its absolute roots. He tells Barav to summon Commander Carter. We see Carter walk in with 3 guys, telling the prince these dudes survived 5 whole seasons of the Months of Demons right here in town. Carter explains that 2 of them are patrol captains who were in charge of the warning beacon, while the 3rd guy is a badass hunter who actually managed to kill 2 monsters entirely on his own. Roland starts grilling them about how their system works. One terrified scout explains that the second they spot monsters creeping out of the forest, they instantly light the beacon and escape on boats straight to Longsong Stronghold. Roland asks if the river is safe. The scout explains that the river is deep and the current is super fast, and he's never seen a single monster make it across. The scout bitterly keeps going, telling Roland these months usually last 2 to 3 months, and the snow doesn't melt until spring. He shares a brutal tragedy from 2 years ago when the season dragged on for 4 whole months, causing tons of people to starve to death. Roland is shocked, asking them, "Weren't you guys inside Longsong Stronghold?" The scout harshly explains that Longsong only gives food in exchange for delivered ores. Once the ores ran out and the monsters blocked them from returning to the mines, the nobles just stood there watching them starve to death without lifting a single finger to help. Roland turns his attention to the hunter, asking about the monsters he killed. The hunter tells him he took down a wolf and a wild boar. He explains these beasts are originally just normal animals, but the corrupt fog boosts their primal instincts, turning them into absolute nightmares. The hunter explains that the boar's skin gets so insanely tough that arrows can't even pierce it, and the wolves get so fast they require special traps. That's exactly why the walls of Longsong Stronghold can actually stop them. Roland notices the hunter's features look a bit different, so he asks Carter about him. Carter says he's an exile from the Sand Nation. Roland looks at the hunter with total respect, telling him he doesn't care where he came from. As long as he's in this border town, he is one of his people. He tells him to hold his head high and say his name with pride. The hunter looks right at the prince, telling him his name is Iron Axe. Roland promises him a huge reward for his bravery, tossing him and the scouts 10 silver coins each, and orders them to head out. After that, Roland grabs Carter and they head over to the edge of a cliff overlooking the whole town. Roland asks Carter about the distance between the mine and the river. Carter tells him it's roughly 2,000 feet. Carter starts getting the vibe that the prince is thinking about something totally crazy, asking him straight up, "Are you actually planning to spend the winter here?" Roland firmly locks eyes with him, declaring he is absolutely staying the winter in this border town, alongside all 2,000 citizens, and he's already got a master plan. He looks out at the massive open land in front of him, telling Carter they are going to protect this town by building a great wall that absolutely no one can ever breach. Next up, we hear Barov's voice talking about Prince Roland Wimbledon's past. He tells us that back in the Grey Castle, the prince's reputation was pure trash. He was drowning in a lazy, totally messed up lifestyle, miles away from acting like actual nobility. Barov also points out there's an impossible gap between him and his siblings, who were literally light years ahead of him. Barov keeps going, admitting that if the king hadn't promised him the Minister of Finance position after this war, he would have never agreed to come to this absolute dump to help a complete loser like him. But suddenly his tone shifts. We see Barov completely mind-blown by the total 180 in Roland's personality, telling us this massive change kicked off the exact day Roland saved the witch, Anna. Barov admits that at first, he thought the prince was just capping and talking nonsense, but when he saw him pulling all-nighters, studying finances, and plotting genius trade strategies like the Silk Road, he knew this had absolutely nothing to do with the old reckless prince. Roland starts laying down a massive long-term plan to upgrade the border town, but Barov nervously warns him that all of this means absolutely nothing if they can't survive the months of demons coming this winter. He reveals the prince wants to build a massive 2,000-foot Great Wall in just 3 months, which, in Barov's eyes, is literally impossible. We then cut straight to the construction site. We see Roland ordering the workers to haul limestone and clay from the North Mountain mine. He tells them they need to smash the stone, mix it with the clay, and spread it all over the ground. Next, we see Anna walking in. Roland asks her to use her magic to blast this mixture with insanely high heat. Right after that, he orders Commander Carter to mix a specific ratio of gypsum powder into the burned batch. Carter looks at the prince, totally confused, asking what the hell he's even doing. Roland just smirks, telling him this is a brand new chemistry recipe. He proudly tells Anna he's about to show her the magic of science. Roland orders Carter to mix this powder with water and pour it right into the gaps between the stones, promising him that by tomorrow, these stones will turn into a rock-solid wall that nobody can ever break through. Anna looks at the prince with total admiration, telling him she believes literally anything he says. The next morning, we see Carter trying to smash the wall with all his might, only to realize it actually turned as hard as iron. We see him totally amazed, telling the prince that if they use this stuff, they could build a wall around the entire kingdom in just 5 years. Roland replies with pure class, explaining there are way more important things to build right now. He drops an incredibly cold line, saying he wants to build massive, proper houses to comfort the poor and homeless, protecting them from the rain and cold. Roland tells Carter this powder is called cement, putting him in charge of finishing the wall in 3 months. But a bit later, we see Roland standing in front of the wall looking super disappointed. He tells Carter the progress is way too slow, the wall looks terrible, and it might just collapse with the first storm. Barov steps in, reminding the prince that Carter is a knight commander, not an engineer. Building a wall this long requires an expert architect. He tells him they desperately need professional builders and workers. Roland makes a boss move instantly, ordering Barov to post job ads in all the surrounding cities. We see the ad getting pinned up in the town square, offering insane salaries. We then cut to a guy named Carl Van Bate, a simple teacher in the town. We see him sitting with a little girl named Nana, who terrifiedly tells him that she just turned into a witch too. Carl tries to calm her down, and right after, he reads the prince's ad looking for workers, builders, and a site manager for 1 gold coin a month. We see him make his decision and head straight to meet the prince. Barov tells the prince a teacher applied for the job, claiming he's worked on massive projects. Roland lets him in, and we see Carl introducing himself, saying he worked on dam maintenance, building palaces, and renovating public buildings in the Grey Castle. Barov gets super suspicious, telling the prince those projects belonged to the Builders Guild, whose members were all executed after the theater collapse disaster. Carl honestly replies, explaining the collapse happened because the guild leader was corrupt, took a bribe, and swapped the stones for weak ones. He says he escaped the execution and came to hide in this border town. Roland totally understands, deciding to pardon him and hire him as the chief builder for his council. He explains to Carl that he wants to build a wall 2,000 feet long and 15 feet high. Carl professionally runs the math, telling him they first need to dig trenches to make the wall stable, warning him that with their current resources, this will take 3 whole years. Roland cuts him off, declaring this wall must be finished before winter to protect them from the monsters. Carl is totally shocked, trying to find backup plans by lowering the height and width of the wall. He tells the prince if they do that, they might finish in a month and a half. But the huge problem is they need a massive amount of carved stone, which is impossible to prep in time. Roland just smirks mysteriously, telling Carl that if materials are the only issue, then this is going to be too easy. He tells him he's got a huge surprise for him. We see them walking together as Roland is about to reveal exactly how he's going to mass produce these stones at insane speeds using cement and Anna's magic. We see the architect Carl standing there completely mind-blown by Roland's results. Prince Roland proudly tells him that what he's looking at is the exact miracle that's going to build his kingdom. Carl starts touching the wall with his hands, unable to believe that the stones have literally fused into one solid block that's impossible to break apart. Roland explains that this material just saved them years of effort polishing and carving stones, letting him know that literally any rock of any shape will do the job as long as they have this mix. Carl starts running the math in his head, telling the prince that if they can skip the boring carving phase, their building speed will multiply by 10. Roland then asks him if the project can actually be done in just 3 months now. Carl replies with total confidence, telling him that thanks to this material, it's entirely possible. Carl asks for the name of this magical stuff. Roland tells him it's called cement. We see Carl repeating the name in awe, saying he will absolutely never forget it. He tells the prince he can't even wrap his head around how chemistry created something this beautiful and strong. Roland smiles, promising to write him a detailed catalog or instruction manual later, and tells him if he needs anything, just hit up his assistant, Barov. At that moment, Carl takes a deep breath and tells the prince he has a special request or a favor. Suddenly, we see Anna walking into the room. The second they lock eyes, pure shock hits both their faces. Carl calls out Anna's name with total disbelief, and Anna replies completely amazed. Roland calmly steps in, asking Anna if this is the teacher she told him about. Anna confirms it, telling him most of the kids in the border town learn from him and that he's a genuinely great guy. Carl acts super humble, explaining he's just a guy who teaches kids how to read and write. We see him looking at Anna with massive emotion, telling her he honestly thought she died and had been having nightmares this whole time. He lets her know he feels an indescribable relief seeing her alive right now. Carl literally throws himself at the prince's feet, thanking him for his mercy and generosity. But Roland tells him to get up, explaining that from his perspective, witches aren't evil creatures, and he would never obey the authorities when it comes to killing innocent people. Feeling a weird sense of safety, Carl decides to drop a massive secret on the prince. He reveals there is actually a second witch right here in the border town. This news hits Anna like a truck. She can't believe the little girl Nana also fell into the trap of magic. Commander Carter and Barov start exchanging nervous looks, realizing that having 2 witches in a tiny village like this could trigger a terrifying purification crusade by the church. Carl keeps talking, begging the prince to show mercy to Nana since she's still young and innocent. He tells him Anna is so lucky to be under the protection of a brave prince like him. Roland corrects him real quick, making it clear he didn't save Anna just to make her his maid. He saved her because he desperately needed her help, revealing that Anna is actually the one who made the cement that just blew his mind. Carl is completely stunned by what he's hearing. Roland then orders Carl to bring Nana to the castle, guaranteeing her absolute safety. Barov smartly jumps in, warning the prince about a massive hurdle. He explains this girl's name is Nana Pine. That name means she's not a commoner. She's the daughter of Baron Tigui Pine, which means she's from a noble family. Roland realizes how risky this is and orders Carl to bring her in bright and early tomorrow morning, acting like she's just going to a regular lesson. He tells Barov to completely clear out the kitchen so he can meet her there, far away from the eyes of the servants and nobles. The next day, we see Nana walking into the kitchen, looking absolutely terrified. Carl tries to calm her down and get her to salute the prince. Roland welcomes her with total class, asking her to take a seat and letting her know he just wants to get to know her better. We see him offering her waffles and some nice sweets just to break the ice and ease her fear. Then, Anna walks into the kitchen. The second Nana sees her, she screams with joy, saying she knew she was still alive and never believed the rumors of her death. Roland gets straight to business, asking Nana about her powers. Nana innocently starts explaining that it all began a week ago when she tried to save a bird with a broken leg. She says she felt a sticky liquid come out of her hands and cover the bird, and suddenly, the bird healed up and flew away. Roland orders Commander Carter to buy some injured animals from the hunters to test Nana's powers. We then see Nana using this weird green liquid, instantly bringing a bird back to full health. Roland starts analyzing this power, realizing she can heal wounds and mend bones, but it's impossible for her to regenerate missing limbs or bring the dead back to life. Commander Carter looks on in awe, telling the prince he finally understands exactly what he plans to do with these witches. Roland tells him to take Nana back home for now and bring her in for secret training later. He explains that if her secret leaks right now, all the nobles will instantly turn on him. Carter then asks the prince if he seriously thinks the wall and the witches are enough to survive the winter. Roland replies mysteriously, telling him, absolutely, but drops a chilling warning that the cursed monsters aren't the only enemies they need to worry about. In the dark shadows, conspiracies are slowly brewing. This cold-blooded lady hears some sweet news about her fleet looting merchant ships and calmly rewards the captain. But the hype doesn't last. The assassination attempt on Prince Roland totally failed. The poison that was supposed to wipe him out literally just put him to sleep for a bit. She takes zero excuses, instantly ordering the hanging of the alchemist who cooked up that trash poison, and gives the female assassin one absolute last chance to finish the job. On the flip side, Prince Roland is out here building his kingdom from absolute scratch. The town wall is going up, supplies have safely arrived, and they've got enough food to last the entire winter. But Minister Barov is absolutely terrified. The vault is draining way too fast, and Roland's private funds will barely get them to next spring. Roland, with this crazy confidence, couldn't care less about going broke, betting everything on the ore trade. But Barov is dead scared of Duke Ryan's reaction if they completely cut off his ore supply. Right before they even finish talking about Duke Ryan, a guard walks in, announcing that the envoy from Longsong Stronghold has just arrived. Perfect timing, and a showdown is now inevitable. Roland just gives a slight smirk, double-checking that all the food is fully secured. It looks like he's cooking up a devious master plan to completely turn the tables on everyone. Prince Roland knows the absolute ultimate weapon in any negotiation is a massive flex. He orders up a royal feast just to completely stunt on the envoy hall before they even say a word. The envoy walks in absolutely mind-blown by the insane amount of luxury food that you couldn't even find in his wealthy castle. Roland, acting totally chill, is eating with wooden chopsticks, explaining they're a cheap alternative to silver forks and that he's going to teach everyone how to use them. And the second the envoy compliments the meal, Roland drops his first massive bomb. I actually just got all this food today from Willowtown. The message is crystal clear. I don't need you guys to feed my people. The envoy finally gets down to business, asking about the delayed ore shipments they were supposed to trade for food. But Roland already has a bulletproof excuse locked and loaded. He tells him the mine collapsed, so production is completely dead, and he refuses to trade the little ore he has for the castle's garbage food rations that just leave his people starving. Roland flips the table completely, declaring, "The old barter system is officially dead." He reveals he sold the ore to Willowtown for solid gold and bought enough food to last the entire winter. The envoy tries to argue that Willow is way too small to make real profit and that his stronghold is the ultimate market, but Roland is just dragging him right into his master trap. And here comes the absolute master stroke. Roland offers to sell them the ore at a straight 30% discount off the market price. Just like that, the greedy merchant envoy starts drooling over the insane profit margins and is definitely going to try to convince the Duke. Right before the envoy leaves, he tries to act smart, warning him about the brutal winter and advising him to just run away to Longsong Stronghold. But Roland completely shuts him down with a jaw-dropping decision. "I'm not going anywhere. I'm building a wall to protect my town this winter, and I'm making it the brand new border of the Grey Castle Kingdom." The reckless prince just instantly transformed into a king building his absolute empire, and nobody has even processed the shock yet. In the pouring rain, Roland sends off the ambassador from Longsong Stronghold. The guy leaves him with a grim warning. His stubbornness is gonna straight up doom Border Town. Sure, Roland has a VIP escape route if things go south, but the commoners? They're sitting ducks. Roland plays it cool though. He basically tells him, I know exactly what I'm signing up for. Cut to Long Song Stronghold, where the snooty nobles are having a little powwow. Petrov drops the bomb. Roland sold their ore and bought enough grub to feed his entire town all winter. But get this, he ain't running to their fortress to hide during the months of demons like usual. Nope, the absolute madman is building a wall and planning to fight the beasts head on. The nobles lose their minds laughing. They think he's just playing in the sandbox and his little wall is gonna crumble in a heartbeat. The Duke? He's just sipping his wine like a mastermind, thinking if he screws up, he comes crawling back. If he kicks the bucket, well, the circus is over. Things get real gloomy in Border Town. Pouring rain, depressing vibes everywhere. Roland gathers the whole town in the square. He steps up, owns his title as the prince, and gives it to them straight with zero sugarcoating. The stronghold cut them off. No food, no backup, just because the mine caved in. Cold-blooded. And to make things worse, the stargazers are predicting a brutal 4-month-long winter. It's gonna be pure hell. Roland hits them right in the feels. He reminds them of the absolute nightmare from 2 years ago, how everyone lost someone, a friend, a partner, a kid. With the rain pouring down, he screams into the storm, "What else do we even have left to lose?" Petrov tries to play the smart diplomat, pitching Roland's wall as a sneaky trade scheme. He suggests a win-win, buy the ore dirt cheap and help build the wall. But the Duke? He just laughs right in his face. He tells Petrov that's small-time merchant thinking. The Duke doesn't give a rat's ass if Border Town thrives or burns. He's all about absolute dominance. You cross him on his turf, you get crushed. Prince or no prince. Meanwhile, back in the mud, Roland pulls the tarp off a massive food stash. He swears on his royal blood that the nightmare is over. He's calling for a militia, but he's putting his money where his mouth is, paying cold, hard cash and death benefits. He lays it on the line. Freeze to death like cowards, or fight for your home with some damn pride. The crowd loses it, totally pumped. And Anna, she's watching him, totally spellbound. We gear down for a little Science 101. Roland is schooling Anna and Nana, dropping knowledge about how air is actually made of different gases. He pulls off a slick experiment with a candle and some lime water to prove his point. One gas feeds the flame, the other snuffs it out. He goes a bit philosophical, saying that harnessing fire is what separated humans from beasts. And then he drops the real truth bomb. Witch powers aren't some dark curse. They're just an untapped natural force waiting to be mastered. Right on cue, Carter walks in, confirming the delivery of snow powder and ice. Carter's scratching his head, clueless about what it's for, but Roland? He just gets this wicked smirk. He's cooking up something big for the next experiment. Night falls, and the vibe gets incredibly tense. Roland is flying solo in his dark bedroom, pouring himself a glass of wine. You can tell the heavy crown and all the plotting are weighing on him. He walks over to the window, the moonlight casting some edgy shadows right across his face. And then, in a split second, out of nowhere, bam! A hooded assassin steps right out of the shadows. Cold steel flashes, and a dagger is pressed dead center against his throat. A voice right in his ear. Don't move. But Roland? The guy doesn't even flinch. Ice in his veins, he smoothly tells his attacker to chill out, claiming he means no harm. The assassin drops her hood, revealing a stunning blonde. He demands to know who she is, and she flashes a mysterious emblem, the Holy Mountain. Roland connects the dots instantly. He's still dealing with witch business. He looks her dead in the eye and asks the million-dollar question. Are you a witch? She nods, dropping her codename, Nightingale. But why is she sneaking into his bedroom? Turns out it's not a hit job, it's a thank you visit. Nightingale admits she originally crashed this place to pull off a jailbreak for a captured witch, but plot twist, she saw that Roland actually spared Anna's life. In fact, she's been creeping in the shadows for a whole week, watching his every move, and even knows about little Nana, representing the Witch Cooperation Association. She's here to pay her respects to the one royal who isn't a total scumbag. Wait, a whole week? Roland sighs, mentally exhausted just thinking about this ninja stalking him 24/7. Completely ignoring the lethal weapon in her hand, he casually walks away, telling her standing around is too tiring and invites her to take a seat. Nightingale is legitimately thrown off. She sits on his bed, scanning him like a puzzle she just can't crack. Roland smirks. What, do I look like a monster? She leans in, totally intrigued. As a witch, she can literally see the fear in people's eyes, but when she looks at Roland, there's zero panic, just pure, unfiltered curiosity. She confirms she's seen everything he's done for the past 7 days. Now that the cat's out of the bag, Roland cuts to the chase. So, what's your next move? Nightingale decides it's time to drop a massive bombshell. Remember that nightcap the head maid just brought him? Yeah, it came with a secret ingredient, a lethal dose of a poison called Tears of the Gods. She hits him with a harsh reality check. His own castle is crawling with snakes. Roland is visibly shook. His own staff is trying to take him out? Nightingale smoothly points out that she just saved his life, and in her world, favors aren't free. As payback, she wants to take Anna with her. To sweeten the deal, she even offers to assassinate the traitorous maid, making them completely even. Take Anna and Nana? Roland shuts that down immediately. Take them where? He demands. Nightingale talks about returning to the Witch Cooperation Association, their supposed safe haven. But Roland instantly calls out the fatal flaw in her logic. They're heading to the impassable mountain range to find the mythical Holy Mountain, right? He looks at her like she's completely lost her mind. He lays down the hard facts. The months of demons are just 2 months away. Those mountains will turn into a frozen hellscape swarming with demonic beasts. There is absolutely zero chance he's letting his witches walk right into a death trap. Instead, he throws a wild counteroffer on the table. Bring the entire association to Border Town. They can survive the brutal winter under his protection. Nightingale laughs it off, thinking he's totally delusional. The church would massacre them if they gathered in a human town. She intensely questions his motives. Why risk his own neck for a bunch of witches? Roland doesn't even blink. Because they are incredibly important to me. The atmosphere in the room thickens. Realizing he won't budge and won't hand Anna over, Nightingale's eyes glow with a chilling, subtle threat. If they're that important, you wouldn't want Anna's life to be in danger, right? Roland freezes. The friendly negotiations? They just turned into a hostage situation. The mood shifts from tense to tragic. Nightingale finally drops the tough act and reveals why she's so desperate to take Anna. She tells Roland about the Day of Adulthood, a literal nightmare every witch faces when they turn 18. It's not a celebration, it's a death sentence. Their own magic violently backlashes, tearing their bodies apart from the inside out. Blood vessels burst, and the pain is so excruciating that many witches just don't survive. They die screaming in pure agony. That's why she needs the Holy Mountain. It's their only shot at eternal peace, their only real escape from this cursed fate. Hearing this brutal reality, Roland makes a tough call. He swallows his pride and agrees to let them go. If it means saving their lives, he won't stand in the way. He heads to Anna's room to break the news, but Anna completely flips the script. I'm not leaving! Nightingale is absolutely stunned. Anna knows exactly what the Day of Adulthood means. She knows the agonizing death waiting for her, but she literally doesn't care. She's made up her mind. The only place she wants to be is right here, standing by the side of the prince who pulled her from the fire. That kind of absolute ride-or-die loyalty, it leaves Nightingale completely speechless. Anna's unwavering resolve completely changes the game. Seeing this, Nightingale makes a wild card move of her own. She's staying in Border Town too, at least for now. She wants a front row seat to see if this prince is actually the real deal. Can he really protect them when the demons come knocking? If he fails, she's packing them up and leaving immediately. Roland smirks and accepts the challenge. Fast forward to the next morning, Roland wakes up, the sun is shining, and things seem perfectly normal. But in Border Town, normal has a very short shelf life. Enter Carter, Roland's loyal knight, looking grim. He delivers the morning report. The head maid, Heir, has been found dead. Took a fatal header right off a balcony. Carter writes it off as a tragic, clumsy accident, but Roland? He knows exactly what went down in the dark. Nightingale didn't just talk the talk, she took out the trash. Playing the perfect politician, Roland keeps a totally straight face and casually orders a proper burial. Case closed, no questions asked. Roland heads to his office, ready to start the day, only to find his new personal assassin chilling at his table, eating his breakfast. Nightingale casually debriefs him between bites. She staged the maid's accident perfectly, and as a bonus, she found a hidden letter. Turns out, the hit was ordered by his own royal siblings. Classic family drama. Roland tries to regain some authority, telling her to leave his food alone and go to the morning meeting. Her response? She just smirks and takes a long sip directly from his personal goblet. Looks like the prince just got a highly lethal, incredibly annoying new roommate. Morning meetings are always a drag, especially when your accountant drops a financial bomb. Barav delivers the bad news. Their latest ore trade was a total ripoff, leaving the town's treasury with a measly 90 gold royals. Winter is knocking, and they are practically broke. But Roland doesn't sweat it. He casually volunteers to fund the new town militia out of his own pocket. Cue Carter, the loyal knight, bringing the ultimate reality check. Sure, they got plenty of recruits, but they're just dirt poor farmers and miners. These guys wouldn't know which end of a sword to hold if their lives depended on it. Carter practically begs to bring in the heavy hitters, the noble knights, specifically a guy named Sir Bowles. Roland gives him the green light, but old man Barav isn't buying it. Using an intense chess game as a brutal metaphor, Barav schools Roland on the harsh political reality. Knights are mercenaries in shiny armor. They aren't going to risk their necks in a doomed battle alongside a bunch of peasants. The only ones who will actually fight to the bitter end are those desperate peasants with everything to lose. Their fatal flaw? Zero combat experience. But Roland just drops a knowing smirk. He knows they can't swing a sword, but they won't have to. He slams down a blueprint that's about to break the medieval meta, a flintlock musket, the ultimate equalizer. Talk is cheap, so Roland heads straight to the forge with his secret weapon, Anna. The biggest hurdle in making a gun? Forging a perfect, seamless barrel. He needs Anna to use her fire magic to slice a dead straight line down a solid iron pipe. She channels her magic, sweat dripping, and nails it flawlessly. Roland is so hyped he pulls her into a massive hug, totally forgetting royal boundaries. He knows exactly what just happened. They didn't just make a pipe, they just kickstarted a whole new industrial era. Roland steps back into his room, only to find his resident shadow, Nightingale, chilling like she owns the place. He's honestly getting tired of this stalker routine, but she brushes it off. She's just doing her job, protecting him and Anna. She casually tosses him a scroll she swiped from his office. Roland tries to play it cool, acting like it's no big deal, but the dynamic is clearly shifting. Nightingale drops the tough assassin act for a second, admitting she actually respects him and how he treats Anna. Looks like the prince and the assassin are slowly turning into a solid tag team. Time to play politics. Roland and Carter ride up to Sir Bowles' lavish, overpriced mansion. Inside, over a fancy feast, Roland asks the noble for his knights to help defend the town. Bowles' response? A flat, disrespectful no. He scoffs at the very idea of his elite knights fighting shoulder to shoulder with peasant scum. And just to rub salt in the wound, he tosses them a single gold coin as a generous donation. It's a massive slap in the face. Carter is absolutely fuming, ready to pop a blood vessel. But Roland? Completely unfazed. He accepts the insult with a poker face and walks out. Outside, Carter apologizes for the humiliation and asks the million-dollar question. Without knights, how do we train the peasants? Roland just stares out over the horizon, a dangerous glint in his eye. Don't worry, I have my own ways. Money makes people do crazy things, right? Cut to the militia camp where a bunch of commoners and stonemasons are grouping up. A guy named Vanner gets swarmed by his buddies. Look, for these guys, this isn't some patriotic Call of Duty, it's straight up easy money. We're talking 10 silver royals a month plus free grub just to do some odd jobs for the knights. Their master plan? If things look sketchy on the battlefield, they're gonna bounce. Vanner's got his eyes on the prize, stacking enough paper to marry his girl Shirley from the local tavern. They're literally out here joking about the 30 silver death benefit. It's all fun and games until a commanding officer suddenly barks at them to fall in line. The chatter dies instantly. His Highness, Roland Wimbledon, the 4th Prince of Greycastle, steps up to the stage. No more joking around. Just his presence alone commands absolute respect across the yard. The real deal has arrived. Roland doesn't waste a single second. He officially dubs them the Border Town Militia. But here's the catch. They're staring down the barrel of a month and a half of pure, rigorous boot camp. The hook to keep them motivated? Pass today's drill, and everyone scores an extra egg for lunch. To these starving commoners, an egg is basically striking gold. The crowd gets totally hyped. Then, Roland pulls his first wild card of the day and introduces their new captain. Enter Iron Axe. The locals definitely know him. He's the most badass hunter in town. But plot twist, he's a sand person, an outsider. Then Roland drops a massive bombshell. Anyone who excels in training or fights like a beast on the battlefield gets an official rank regardless of their background. The prince is literally trashing the old noble bloodline rules. It's all about merit now. Iron Axe takes the reins, fully ready to break these rookies into shape. The first trial? Standing perfectly still. Sounds like a joke, right? Nope. Iron Axe demands absolute military posture. Chest out, stomach in, arms glued straight down. For half an hour, under a blazing, unforgiving sun, reality hits them like a truck. Sweat is dripping, muscles are cramping, and it's dead silent. They aren't even fighting monsters yet, they're fighting their own weak bodies. And they're pushing through all this agony just for the taste of that promised egg. Just hold on a little longer. Time's up. Those words hit like absolute magic. The recruits completely wipe out on the grass, totally gassed. Vanner is mind blown, realizing that doing literally nothing is somehow more exhausting than hauling stones all day. As they catch their breath, the paranoia starts creeping in. Are they actually getting that egg, or is the prince gonna back out? Let's be real, nobles are notorious for talking trash and going back on their word. But then, the gears start turning in their heads. This prince is different. Making Iron Axe, a sand person, their captain, proves Roland doesn't give a damn about noble bloodline politics. While they're sitting there envying Iron Axe's insane, tank-like stamina, they spot the royal knight heading back their way. The moment of truth is here. Time to see if Roland actually puts his money where his mouth is. They survive the first trial, and Carter drops the good news. Everyone gets an egg. The crowd goes wild! But Prince Roland isn't done. Round 2. Stand at attention for another hour. The prize? A second egg. The brutal twist? If even one guy twitches or breaks posture, the whole squad fails. It's brilliant psychological warfare. It's no longer about personal endurance. It's about peer pressure. The initial panic quickly turns into pure resolve. For that second egg, Vanner and the boys are ready to go all out. While the commoners suffer outside, a different battle brews in the command tent. Chief Knight Carter is furious, seeing only a mob that'll run from the first beast. He wants to teach them swordplay and questions putting an outsider in charge. Roland hits him with reality. Training a knight takes years, and they only have 2 months before the month of demons. Roland isn't building knights. He's forging a modern, disciplined military. The craziest part? Teaching these illiterate peasants to read and write. Carter thinks it's useless, but Roland knows the truth. An educated army is a deadly one. The prince is playing 4D chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Talk is cheap, but a full stomach buys loyalty. Lunchtime hits with fresh bread, roasted fish, and the holy grail, the promised egg. One dude is literally crying tears of joy. It's funny but tragic, showing how rough their lives were. As they stuff their faces, all complaints vanish. For this reward, they'll stand like statues all day. Vanner sums it up perfectly. Who cares about the prince's crazy tricks? As long as the food keeps coming, they are his loyal pawns. Carter hands Iron Axe the afternoon menu, a 3-lap jog around the town before sunset. The tactical twist? It's an all-or-nothing group mission. If one guy gasses out, the rest must drag him to the finish line. No man left behind, with another egg as the prize. Carter advises them to get some rest since they'll be exhausted, but drops a massive red flag before leaving. I suggest you don't sleep too soundly. Oh boy, what midnight nightmare is the prince cooking up now? The afternoon sun is brutal, and the final test is underway. 3 laps around the town before sunset. Sounds simple? Dead wrong. These guys are running on fumes. Iron Axe makes the rules clear. Support each other, nobody quits, or the third egg vanishes for everyone. Cut to Vanner. His gas tank is empty and he hits the dirt. But then, mental warfare kicks in. He remembers that heavenly lunch. Is he really gonna let the squad down? Watch his face. Pure agony turning into desperate willpower. He's literally dragging his broken body through the dirt for that egg. Get up, Vanner! The finish line looks more like a battlefield. Bodies everywhere. Total exhaustion. Iron Axe and Carter do the head count, and the tension is thick. 3 men are short. Did they give up? But wait, look at the horizon. The missing guys emerge from the sunset, literally carrying Vanner across the finish line. This is exactly what Roland wanted. He forced them to build a real brotherhood. Carter looks at this battered squad and drops the verdict. Everyone crossed. Training complete. The crowd goes insane. They secured the egg. Night falls and the vibe flips into a full-on feast. Bonfire roaring, and these guys are eating like kings after surviving hell. Even Iron Axe is chilling, saying he could fall asleep instantly. Carter agrees, but then drops a brutal plot twist with a straight face. There's one more session tonight. Iron Axe is stunned. The prince is calling a midnight emergency assembly. They think the nightmare is over, but Roland is about to wake them up. Shift from the noisy camp to the quiet, late-night grind inside the castle. Anna appears, questioning Roland's endgame since he's paying the militia from his own pocket. Roland drops a truth bomb. If it protects the town, it's worth every penny. She pushes deeper. Why teach them to read? His answer is the core of the story. Education gives them a reason to fight, a purpose, not just food. Her eyes soften as she asks about the witches, her voice breaking. They're just broken souls surviving in a world that hates them. It's a raw, emotional moment exposing their heavy burdens. Fast forward. Roland is alone, the atmosphere heavy. He unwraps a long, mysterious object. This isn't a sword or magic. It's cold, hard steel. He carefully wipes the barrel and inspects a lead bullet. The prince isn't just training an army, he's upgrading the era. The age of swords is officially over. Roland is introducing firearms to a magical world. The demonic beasts won't even know what hit them. The game has changed. Deep in the woods, Roland finally unveils his ultimate technological masterpiece, the musket. Carter gives it a seriously skeptical look, thinking it's just a clunky, weirdly shaped crossbow. But Roland just smirks and introduces the real secret sauce, gunpowder. The prince literally runs them through a step-by-step masterclass. Pour the black powder, ram the solid lead bullet down the barrel, lock it in, and take aim. Carter grips the heavy gun. The tension in the forest is crazy thick. He takes a slow breath, plants his feet, and pulls the trigger. Boom! A deafening blast echoes, and thick smoke fills the air. When it clears, that heavy steel knight's armor is blasted wide open like it's made of cheap tissue paper. Everyone is standing there in absolute jaw-dropping shock. The Age of Knights is officially canceled. Iron Axe is absolutely mind-blown. You can see the heavy tragedy in his eyes. He knows if his fallen brothers had this insane firepower against the demonic beasts, they'd still be alive today. Carter eagerly asks about mass production, still reeling from the shock, and Roland calmly confirms more are being forged before winter hits. But then, the prince drops the hardest quote of the entire series. This weapon is powerful enough to rewrite reality, but at the end of the day, it's just a tool. For you, the absolute strongest weapon will always be trust and unwavering loyalty. He hands the rifles over, making it clear these aren't meant to replace his warriors, but to help them defend the town and its people. Carter and Iron Axe immediately drop to one knee in pure respect. They are officially ride or die for the prince forever. Meanwhile, completely unaware of Roland's futuristic army, the haters are having a field day back at their cozy enemy stronghold. The local nobles are casually practicing archery and treating Roland like an absolute laughingstock. They're roasting his militia, mocking the fact that he's motivating simple peasants with extra eggs instead of hiring real noble knights. The arrogant blonde noble is dead set on the idea that Roland is gonna fold and come crying for their help once the winter beasts attack. But the older duke watching them, he's not laughing. He's ice cold and calculating. He casually admits Roland's walls might be fragile and his army might look like trash, but he drops a truly chilling threat. Even so, I will not give him even the slightest opportunity to survive. A deadly political storm is brewing, and these nobles have zero clue about the absolute firepower Roland is packing. The sun's setting on Border Town, and surprisingly, the ragtag militia is actually looking like a real army. Even Iron Axe is whipping them into shape. Watching from the sidelines, Greyhound can't believe his eyes, but he knows one thing for sure. His best bro Brian belongs out there. With Brian's killer swordsmanship and riding skills, he could totally win the fourth prince's favor. Brian's always dreamed of being a knight, and right now, the prince is looking like a boss worth serving. Brian's hyped, asking Greyhound to join him so they can become knights together. But Greyhound? He's a simple guy. He doesn't need fancy titles. He just wants to protect their home, right alongside his best friend. It's a wholesome bromance moment, but in this world, happy moments are usually just the calm before the storm. Fast forward to night patrol, and things take a dark turn real quick. Brian and Greyhound walk into a shady cabin meeting led by their so-called captain. Turns out, the captain's uncle is tight with the Duke, and the Duke is furious that the fourth prince is flexing on his territory. He wants to put the prince in his place, but since flat-out assassinating royalty is a one-way ticket to the executioner's block, they've got a dirtier plan. Hit him where it hurts, the food supply. By burning the rations right before the months of demons, the prince will be forced to retreat. The reward? Knighthood and prime real estate. But Greyhound isn't having it. Burning the food means dooming the entire town to starve during a 4-month brutal winter. The captain and his greedy thugs couldn't care less if the locals eat dirt, as long as they get paid. But here's the catch. The food is locked up tight in the prince's castle. The only reason the captain brought them in? He knows Greyhound used to sneak through an abandoned well that leads straight into the castle gardens. It's the perfect back door. The captain offers them the ultimate bribe. Do this, and you get your shiny knight titles. But Greyhound stands his ground. He drops some heavy truth bombs, declaring that real knights fight against injustice and protect the weak. Anyone willing to sacrifice innocent lives for a petty grudge doesn't deserve the title. It's a badass speech, and it costs him his life. Before he can even react, he gets backstabbed, literally. A blade gets shoved straight through his back. As his best friend bleeds out in front of him, Brian is frozen in shock. With twin blades at his throat, the captain makes it crystal clear. Play ball or you're next. The dream of honorable knighthood just turned into a waking nightmare. Brian is marching through the dark tunnels alongside the exact same traitors who just murdered his best friend. As they move through the shadows, Greyhound's words echo in his mind like a painful ghost. He remembers his bro hyping him up, fully believing Brian was destined to be a legendary knight for the prince. But Greyhound never cared about the glory. For him, standing shoulder to shoulder to protect their home was the ultimate prize. His friend's blood is practically still warm, and these memories are tearing Brian apart from the inside as he walks silently among the killers. The captain's hit squad pushes deeper, using the abandoned well to slip right into the castle's guts. They sneak past massive, complicated machinery, weird technology they can't even comprehend, heading straight for the food warehouse beneath the kitchen. But behind his dead-eyed stare, Brian is fighting a war inside his own head. The captain thinks he's got Brian on a tight leash, completely broken, but he severely underestimated a man who just lost his brother in arms. Every single step Brian takes is fueled by pure, unadulterated rage. He's not here to burn some food, he's here to paint the walls with their blood. Once they hit the warehouse, Brian absolutely snaps. He draws his blade, refusing to let these traitors starve his town, and launches a desperate one-man assault to avenge Greyhound. He's holding his own, slicing through the grunts, but then the final boss steps out of the shadows. Meet Lord Viper, the infamous knight from Longsong Stronghold. Turns out Duke Ryan sent his top dog to make sure the job gets done. Viper is on a whole different level. He easily overpowers Brian, dropping him to the cold stone floor. The brutal truth? Brian was never going to get a knighthood. He was brought here to be the perfect scapegoat, the arsonist who set the fire and died in the blaze. As Brian bleeds out, his vision fading, he mentally apologizes to Greyhound. He couldn't become a knight, and he couldn't even avenge his friend. Absolute despair. But just when the captain is about to deliver the finishing blow, a chilling voice echoes through the cellar. A mysterious, cloaked figure steps up. Viper smirks, thinking it's just a girl in the wrong place at the wrong time, and lunges at her. Big mistake. In a blink and you miss it flash of supernatural speed, she phases through the shadows and cleanly severs Viper's arm. With her glowing red eye piercing the darkness, she looks down at the bleeding elites and drops the hardest line of the episode. Rats that crawled in from the gutter, take your filthy paws off my dried fish. The witch is in the house and class is officially dismissed. Brian wakes up in a cold sweat, wrapped in bandages. But the nightmare isn't over. It's just different. The fourth prince himself is standing by his bed alongside his inner circle. Roland drops some heavy praise, calling Brian the absolute hero of Bordertown for saving the food supply. But those words feel like ash in Brian's mouth. He breaks down, tears streaming down his face, choking out that his best friend Greyhound is the real hero. It's a gut punch moment of pure survivor's guilt. But Roland shows why he's a boss you want to follow. He doesn't just offer empty sympathy. He promises Greyhound a proper, honorable funeral and swears to take care of his family for life. He confirms they captured the captain and the elite knight, promising brutal justice. And then he drops the ultimate reward. Once winter ends, Brian is getting that knighthood. He earned it in blood. But the moment the prince steps out of the room, the vibe shifts from emotional to straight-up political chess. Roland vows to execute the criminals, but his minister, Barov, hits him with a harsh reality check. In this twisted feudal system, justice has a price tag. Because the captain has noble blood ties to a baron, and Viper is an elite knight working for Duke Ryan, the law actually allows them to buy their way out of the executioner's block with restitution money. Barov advises playing it safe and waiting to see the Duke's next move. It's a corrupt, rigged game where the rich get a free pass for murder. But Roland isn't your average royal. While playing the political game on the surface, he secretly orders his loyal knight Carter to bring in Nana, the healing witch, to patch Brian up quietly. He's keeping his cards close to his chest. Right on cue, the corruption walks straight through the throne room doors. Enter Baron Boris, putting on a masterclass in fake apologies. He acts like his nephew, the traitorous captain, just made a silly little mistake by breaking into the castle and trying to burn the town's lifeline. To smooth things over, Boris casually slides a chest full of gold royals across the table as restitution. Basically, a legal bribe to buy a murderer's life. But Boris gets greedy. He casually mentions the captured knight, Viper, playing dumb about how a duke's elite guard ended up in this accident. With a slimy smile, Boris offers another 50 gold pieces to buy Viper's freedom too, asking the prince to show mercy. He fully expects Roland to take the cash and sweep the treason under the rug like a good little puppet. The tension is thick enough to cut with a sword. Will the prince take the bait? Or is this Baron about to learn a very painful lesson? The tension in the throne room is off the charts. Baron Boris thinks he's got the prince in his pocket with a chest of gold, expecting him to sweep the treason under the rug. Roland plays along for a second, agreeing to treat the assassination attempt as a personal act to avoid a direct war with the Duke. But then, he totally flips the script. Instead of taking the bribe, he sentences the traitors to death by hanging, effective immediately. The Baron panics and tries to pull the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card. Noble crimes can be pardoned in the name of God. Roland doesn't even blink and drops the coldest line of the season. If pardoning them is God's will, then I shall send them to meet God. Absolute savage. He even forces the terrified Baron to watch the execution. Out in the town square, Roland spins a masterclass PR narrative, publicly hanging the elites and elevating Brian and Greyhound to absolute legendary status. Later that night, Roland is chilling on the balcony when Nightingale phases out of the shadows. They share a moment of mutual respect, and Roland decides to shoot his shot, professionally. He offers her a legit gig as his personal bodyguard, complete with a monthly salary, weekends off, and paid annual leave. Nightingale is standing there buffering, completely mind-blown by these modern-day labor rights. But things get incredibly deep real quick. She calls out his hypocrisy. How can he execute nobles in the name of God while simultaneously protecting witches, which goes against everything the church teaches? Roland doesn't hold back. He drops a heavy theological truth bomb. He separates the corrupt church from actual divinity, declaring that justice should be blind to status. He's doing what's right for his people. And his closing statement? If God doesn't understand that, then he isn't God. Nightingale is left utterly speechless. This isn't just a prince, this is a revolutionary. Underneath a massive, beautiful tree on a sunlit hill, Brian visits Greyhound's grave. The emotional damage is heavy here. He brought the white lilies, and he brings the bittersweet news. The prince kept his word. Brian is officially getting the knighthood they both dreamed of. But the victory feels incredibly hollow without his best friend there to share it. In a tear-jerking final promise, Brian swears to wield his sword and protect Bordertown with everything he's got, carrying on Greyhound's will forever. He says a final, heartbreaking goodbye to his brother-in-arms. The town is safe, but the scars are permanent. Before we end today's video, I want to send a big thank you to our very first channel member. I really appreciate you joining and supporting the channel.